All right, everyone, welcome. We're glad to have you here with me. I have a brand new guest to the release stream, someone who I'm excited to talk to. We're going to learn a bit about what neovim is doing, both in terms of CI, sort of making ourselves able to run and build and test on different platforms, as well as being able to do exciting things like modernizing different parts of the code base and standardizing it into similar patterns all across our decently sized C code base, not Rust, by the way. And so I'll just leave it over for Dunder. Why don't you just give us a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I no, I'm. My name is Tundar. I started contributing. Oh wait, I should basically. I should probably start why I started using
Yeah, that sounds good.
neovim. Um, so I initially, yeah, right. I used VS Code before or Atom before, and
Oh
then
my goodness, we didn't
VS
even
Code.
bleep it. VS. Sorry, you got to let me know ahead of time.
Yeah, but I used the Vim. The
Okay.
Vim.
All
So,
right.
so basically, I was bored by my master's project. So I was like, I need to do something while I'm writing like my master's thesis. So I was like, okay, I'll just try this Vim thing,
Mm-hmm.
just to like keep my mind off any like whatever. And
Yeah.
I just knew like HJKL and like, oh wow, it's cool. I can move like
Mm-hmm.
fast travel. So the cursor, in Vim when in insert mode, it's not like a line. Why is there no?
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't it like a?
Yeah. Why
Uh,
isn't it a line?
yeah,
Yeah.
why isn't the line? I mean, insert mode.
Mm-hmm.
How am I supposed to know where
Yeah.
where it is? And so I tried. I don't know. I think I looked up why is there not a line in the cursor, and I heard that neovim had one. So I was like, okay, well, I'll try
Good
neovim.
enough for
Like,
me.
like,
Yeah.
like that. That's
Yeah.
how deep it. Like that's how deep it was.
I
Like
love it.
it's
I
the
love
dumb
it.
like
Yeah.
Lua or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I started using. And after a while, I got so used to neovim. I was like, when I did have a good enough computer to run VS Code, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna.
Nice.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I started to use neovim.
Yeah.
How I started to contribute was I like I thought about this, and I was considering like making something like, oh, I just wanted to give back to the community, like something really like cheesy or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
uh, no, but it's much more selfish
That's good. That works too. Yeah.
than that. It was I was worried that I was stagnating in my programming ability.
Mm-hmm.
At work, I was worried that I wasn't progressing enough. So I thought I gotta take matters into my own hands,
Nice. I love it.
and uh, yeah, I was like, yeah, I use neovim, so I mean it was like, oh, I use neovim the most, so I should contribute to neovim.
Sweet. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool.
So that's why I started to that, and I I'm really proud of my first PR. Actually, I have. I'm gonna show you.
Yeah, show me.
I prepared like truly, and like a lot of work went into this.
Mm-hmm.
I
Nice.
don't know if
Want
you
to
can
test
see.
pull request? Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
good.
That's it. Like that's how I started.
Yeah.
Like no,
Nice.
like no research, no nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this dumbass didn't like do any like anything. He's just like, oh, I want to try. Like I didn't know that people like could see this.
Yeah. Right.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just
Totally.
like, oh, I'm just, yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think I would like get my shit together for the second, and this is the my second pull request.
Yep. Yep. We can read it. Yep. That's funny.
Yeah, so now that's
Now that's
that
some good history right there. Now that's an origin story if I ever heard one. I love it.
no, like it's No, it's completely like it's embarrassing. It's so dumb. Oh god, it's so. I don't know what I was like. I wasn't thinking. Like I wasn't. Oh god.
No, but it's a. I think honestly, I think it's good. It's fun too that we're getting to talk about it. Not only because now I wasn't aware of this, so I'll be able to tease you about it in neovim chats. But additionally, I think it actually, on a more serious note, it's pretty cool for people who maybe are like, oh, I don't know if I could contribute to open source. Like I've never done it before. You're like, well, apparently you can start from just sending empty PRs cursing at the project, right? And then like end up being someone who's getting interviewed about cool things that happened in a release. Like in not a long time, you know, it's not like five years, you know what I mean? It's like that's not that long of a time. So I think it should be a really good encouragement. You know, it should be a really good encouragement to other people interested in
I mean,
contributing to open source.
fair enough. It was 1 year ago or something, June.
Yeah.
So 1 year and a few months.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not a long.
Yeah, it's not long, and now you've got quite a few commits to neovim, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I have my dog avatar in the contributing.
Yeah.
So, which means I've spammed enough commits.
Yeah, you're up. So let's move on to some of the stuff that then you have been working on. So I think the first one that would be kind of fun to talk about is just like neovim CI, like talk about where we were and then some of the work that you've done recently to get us to the point that we are today, you know, at the point of nvim 08 release.
Yeah. So I touched upon this before, but we learned like 3 months ago, something like that. That Source Hut. We used Source Hut, and we loved Source Hut, or I loved Source Hut, and a lot of people I talked to loved Source Hut, and their CI was like much faster than GitHub Actions. So it was we were really we were really not enjoyed it, but we like
pleased with the experience.
Yeah, exactly. So it was so that kind of sucked when we learned that they didn't that they were gonna stop supporting the connection between GitHub and the Source Hut. And we did have a lot of like discussions about this, because I don't know, I can be a little bit more like some of the other people in the project that have been longer. They are more not that they're I wouldn't say they're conservative, but they are more like, okay, have you like thought about it, and they're a little bit more see the bigger pictures. Sometimes I can be a little bit like, who needs BSD? But then like we discussed this, and it's not necessarily that, like the fact that it's free BSD or open BSD or whatever, that's not the crucial part. The crucial part is that we want neovim to be able to be built on as many platforms as possible, and as many architectures and many bits and like whatever you can think of. And free BSD happens to be just different enough from the big three, like the Mac OS, Windows, Linux, that it becomes useful to use that. Yeah, and so that's why. So that's why we want to test. It's not. It doesn't have to be FreeBSD. It could be, I don't know, Solaris, or I don't know. Right. I can't come up with anything.
I don't know anything about distributions, but the point of, we want neovim to be built on like any platform that someone like reasonably would like to edit code with neovim. You know, exactly. Right? Like and then it's good to keep those things running all the time, instead of just getting issues from someone on FreeBSD being like, hey, this doesn't build anymore because of this. And you're like, oh, what? Like, what? Now we got to go like revert a commit, or what do we need to do? And so
Yeah, exactly.
that's why we have CI.
Yeah.
And so then your work was basically moving us to a new CI platform to build BSD. Do you want to talk at all about anything, interesting that happened there? Any like learnings or anything, sort of just even for you personally that happened throughout sort of that journey, moving us to a different CI platform?
Yeah, I can talk about myself. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, no. At first, like, I'm so glad that things turned out the way they did, because at first we weren't planning on like any outside the CI. So
Mm-hmm.
we just were focused on GitHub Actions, and I like a lot of work went into testing out different alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
So the first method that I tried was to have a virtual machine in GitHub Actions,
Mm-hmm.
and that like it worked, but it was very slow, and
I was gonna say that sounds like a slow option.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And there were a lot of quirky requirements, like, oh, this VM can only be run on if the runner is a Mac OS, but it's the 10
Mm.
Mac OS 10, but not 11. Like very like, so,
Yeah.
okay, like
Yep.
this.
Yep.
And the annoying part with GitHub, or annoying, but it's understandable. But GitHub Actions, they they limit the use of Mac OS specifically,
Mm-hmm. Right.
compared to Linux, and so that was a rough blow. And after determining that, no, this isn't working out, so we had to
Mm-hmm.
look outside. And Vim actually uses
Oh, I didn't know. That's cool.
Cirrus CI for FreeBSD.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, they recently started to test Mac M1s as well,
Oh, cool.
like
Nice.
just a few days ago.
Yeah.
Um, and so, like in true neovim fashion, we were able to snatch
Yeah.
their
Right. No, it's
CI
one of the
conflicts.
great things about sort of that symbiotic relationship between the two projects, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's cool. That's
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
And that was and that was like, it was a lot of work, but they had already fixed a lot of the weird, like, city specifics,
Mm.
janks and kinks or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which would have, so I'm really grateful for them
Yeah.
for actually like paving the way in that way.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So yeah,
And so now when you see a little green check mark on your pull request, because everyone after hearing this is going to start contributing to neovim, of
yeah,
course.
you better.
Yeah, you better. You can thank that if Vim as well as for part of that journey of getting that little green check mark there, which I think is pretty sweet. I think the other aspect of some of the work that you've been doing, which I think is also really cool, and maybe people don't know that this is happening, is just your works on sort of standardizing how we're using different, like data types, or how we're doing different aspects throughout NeoVim's code base. Can you give us a little bit of background, and then some of, just like an example of one of the kind of refactors or cleanups that you've done recently? Because I think it's pretty cool just to hear that those things are currently happening and that nobody notices that they're happening, right? That's the sign of a great refactor, is that it's just happening, and then no one's like, oh man, neovim like crashed, or this behavior changed, or that doesn't happen. We're just like fixing stuff and it's working, or at least hopefully. I don't know, maybe
Yeah,
there's some
I
issues
was
that I
about
didn't
to
see.
say
Maybe, but
I was about to say, Sear QT, or I don't know
yeah.
how to.
Yeah.
He's had to cover up a few of my.
Well, yeah, but
a few of my.
he's like a magician, so that's okay if Zir figures it out. But
Yeah.
the rest of us mortals, we don't notice any difference. So okay,
Yeah.
so with that context, give us a little bit of background about what's going on there, and maybe an example of something that you've done recently.
Well, it's like a lot of like Vim is old. Like
Yeah. Right.
Vim is old, and by extension, the code is going to be old, and
Mm-hmm.
by extension of that, neovim's code is going to be old.
Yes. Right.
No, but like it is what it
Yeah.
is,
It's just a fact of the matter. Right.
and like I like I have written C in like I did like learn a little bit of elementary C in school
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, but that was like completely useless when I tried to. No, but it
Yeah.
is a lot
No.
of like a lot of specific trick, like really utilizing the C language to the
Right.
max. And and some of the stuff I'm like, what the, this isn't C, like this isn't like some like
Yes.
I don't know, this is just this is something else, like I don't
Yeah.
I don't understand, like what is
It's like
this?
C plus, you know?
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
C
Or
plus
C
plus.
minus. No.
There's like C minus. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not really sure. It's C with something. C star maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. No. And when I ask Björn or like someone else, like
Yeah.
what is this? Like what is this? Oh, and they're like explaining the legacy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's because blah, blah, blah. Like for historical, there's a lot of things that are just historical baggage. Like a lot
Right.
of
Yeah, really old C compilers that required you to do something on this way for this particular platform. And so then that's just the way that it has been, right?
Yeah,
But we don't use
exactly.
those compilers anymore.
Yeah.
So, then that leads us to you being able to make some changes.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of it is like a lot of it starts with like either um, like they're like people have put up issues
Mm-hmm.
on the GitHub where they, oh yeah, we should do this or this or this, and the
Mm-hmm.
char-u is char is one of
Yeah.
them. So it's so there's a lot of like people have there's a lot of cleaning up that is
Mm-hmm.
that hasn't been done yet, that is like written, and someone else has done the
Yeah.
so there's not a like I don't know, anyone can do this really, like with a
Yeah.
it's just that it's a lot it's a lot of work, and
Yeah.
it's not like
So like give us a like concrete example. So you mentioned char-u. Like what is that, and then what gets changed from char-u to something else, or does something else get, just give us like a little snippet rundown of what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So char-u is just a type def, like it's just it's just unsigned char, an
Mm-hmm.
unsigned integer basically.
Right.
And Vim uses unsigned char for their characters or strings.
Mm-hmm.
The annoying part of that is that normally you use char for strings,
Right.
and because it's inevitable that because you have to use like libraries or like integrate with other code,
Yep.
either like system libraries or dependencies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't use this char-u, the unsigned char, then that means that you have to cast them.
Yeah, like a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So it becomes a minefield of casts basically. It's
Yeah, because you like cast it in so that you can convert it to just like regular char, and then you get the result back, and then you have to cast that back to char-u, and then it's like I've done a few PRs where like our API land code, a lot of that uses char because that's going to be like talking to other systems or whatever, and that makes sense. And then you like want to call some Vim function that's written a while ago, and it's char-u, and so you're like, you just write one function, and like inside of the function you just have like 8 different casts, and you're like, I don't want to have to do this every time I call a function.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a like the code works as
Right.
is.
Yep.
Like at this point, there's not a functional problem with the code. It's a
Right.
readable problem
hmm
with the
Yeah,
code. Like
and like developer speed and velocity and enjoyment. Like for us, we're an open source project. If someone gets bored or frustrated writing a PR, they can just leave. Yeah, I mean you can do that for
yeah,
your job too, but you're a little more motivated to
yeah,
do.
fair.
You're a little more
Yeah,
motivated to stay doing the things you don't like at your job because there's like a paycheck waiting
yeah,
at the end of the week. Whereas for like an open source project, you might just be like, "Well, I'm kind of just tired of this code
yeah.
base. Like it's annoying."
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like yeah, it's just I don't know what. A friction thing. Like
Yes.
it's just removing friction,
hmm
and I think the more we can remove friction, the more like enjoyable and readable it is. Because
Yeah.
something, I don't know, some of like it becomes, there are like 6,000 casts. Like it's something like
Right.
they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Something that so they really have been like infested or infested the code base, or I don't
Infested
know.
is a good word for it. Yeah. They
No,
do. They do
no,
tend to like infest everywhere.
so I have done, I don't know, 30, 40, like something of those PRs.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. There's just so many of them. So
Yeah. hmm Yeah.
and
So that's something. I mean, I think like this is a good example of sort of like something that even without a ton of knowledge of C, even without a ton of knowledge of open source, like people can try and do this and like help leverage that work for other people. I think it's a good way too to just like practice the motions of being able to like open a PR, download it, get a new branch, make some changes, upload.
don't do like I did. Don't.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's like because obviously it can go wrong.
Yeah.
um, but generally speaking, I think one of the things that's nice about neovim is, long as you're not being, as long as you're not being a jerk to the maintainers,
Mm,
I think people are pretty patient about like that kind of thing happening. Like we're not going to
yeah.
yell at you like, "Hey, you don't understand how to make PRs, like get out of here." That's not what's gonna happen. So I think it's been, in my experience, my first PR. I didn't know anything about like coding. Like
Yeah.
I was still in college. I had never done like Git yet. Basically, like I hadn't graduated. Had done nothing. Um, and just like the community was super nice to me and like helped me work through like the stuff I was doing, and like, oh, you just need to write some more tests, or like do this, or I was like, tests, I don't really know, I've never written those before, or
Yeah.
like whatever. But like I think if you have, as a contributor, a good attitude and you're kind and you're willing to like read, like at least read the messages people are sending, or
Yeah.
like at least do one search somewhere
Yeah.
before you ask a question. That'll take you really far in getting like your first contribution. And once you do your first one, it's a lot easier to do your second one,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I think that part is really good and sort of like a fun part of this story. And you can like just go to neovim and you can go look at the PRs from Dundar, and like you can see, there's stuff going on there, and you're contributing a lot now, and I think that's really exciting. So I
Mm.
want to give you a chance to give sort of any final or closing thoughts, anything you'd like to say to anybody, either about the 0.8 release or neovim in general, or really anything. The floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank my employer, Acumis Minds.
Nice.
Give a
hmm
shout out to them because they let me work on neovim uh,
Nice.
instead of work.
Yeah. No, that is a big deal. That's very
No,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. So I would like to give a shout out to them.
hmm
And
There will be a link in the description later to Acumen's
yeah,
Mind. You got to send me a link to put in
nice.
the
Good.
description.
Thank you for reminding me. Or thank you.
Yeah.
And I would say, no, like I think I would like to, like as a future plans, or as
Yeah.
I envision for the CI is like now. Yeah, I mentioned like I'm so glad that the our first solution didn't work because we were forced to go to Cirrus.
Yeah.
And now we have and Cirrus they provide a lot wider range of architectures compared to GitHub Actions. For example, ARM builds or Mac M1 or and FreeBSD, like I mentioned. So my hope would be that we will be able to like use that to because some people have been asking about ARM releases, and some people have been asking about neovim map image, but with an older glibc. Because this one doesn't work on old systems. Our app image doesn't work on. So
that might be one of the things too that people might not recognize. It's not only about the little green check mark in your PR. It's also about getting those release images that you can download and like just unzip and run, or like as an app image. That'll happen in the CI as well. And so like if you end up on some system where you don't want to build neovim, on some ARM system, well, maybe this is the pathway for us getting there, to have something that can just run for you easily, which I think is cool.
Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Right.
Someone needs to do the work.
Right.
But the road is there, or the possibilities are there.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay, thanks.
I would say that thank you a lot for having me, and
it's been fun. This is our first time getting to like chat, not just in a chat room. So this is one of my favorite parts too of doing release streams, is I get to put, a face and a voice to the names that I see online. And my other favorite thing is like having the people who are using neovim get to see all the other people who are doing awesome work for the releases, and just a chance to learn about some stuff that maybe they didn't know.
To dispel the myth that you aren't that you aren't
right.
I know,
I'm like, I didn't create neovim. I just stream on Twitch.
I created, like, I am neovim.
Well, it is funny when occasionally we do a little bit of trolling on Twitch occasionally.
Okay.
So but I'm like, no. I just stream on Twitch. I'm not the important guy, so it's fun. But it's good. It's good for everyone else to get to see it. And even if they're not a fan of neovim, I think it's cool for people to get to have a little look into different open source communities. So thanks again for coming online, and maybe we'll see you again at the next release.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
All right.